Welcome to my channel. I'm John and this is my shop. And today we're going to be talking about a few things that you may or may not find interesting. We're going to look at something pretty cool involved with your touch screen on your cell phone. Talk about the basics of your meter, build an electrical circuit, and have a little fun. Maybe make a few jokes along the way. Let's start out by your cell phone. Here's a fuse. Did you know you can possibly touch your screen through a fuse? Well, the reason you can on this one is because I blew this fuse. But watch this. Here's the same fuse that the fuse hasn't been blown, and you can touch your screen through the fuse. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. The reason for this is because it's a capacitive touchscreen. It detects the electrical capacitance of an object. It's not just direct conductivity. Isn't that pretty cool? Let's talk about electricity and start out by knowing the basics of your meter. This is alternating current, AC. This is DC, direct current. This is ohms to read resistance. That's a way to hear a sound if you do have continuity. This is alternating current amp, DC amp. In your household circuit, you get alternating current. And the way to read alternating current. Voltage is to put your leads right into the electrical component you're trying to test, and we have 246.8 volts here. When checking 12 volt circuits, direct current, you put your meter on direct current 12 volt, and the way you read it, you got a positive and a negative. Positive and a negative. And we're reading 12.7 volts DC. Alright, here's how to check resistance across the circuit. Here's a wire that's not broken. You go across the circuit, and we're getting very low resistance here. But let's imagine that you want to check continuity across that same circuit. Well, we got perfect continuity across that circuit. Well, let's say the circuit is broken and you want to check continuity. Well, you're going to get nothing. Now to read amperage, it's the same through direct current as it is alternating current, but we're going to test it through direct current because we're dealing with smaller voltage, and it's a little safer to do so. So I'm changing my meter over to amperage. We're going to go to direct current amperage. And to read amperage, you have to break the circuit and read between it. And the reason we're not getting any amp reading is because we're not drawing any power from it. V equals I times R. Alright, when thinking about electricity, you got to think about it like water. And you're also going to understand Ohm's law. Voltage, it's like what is pushing behind a dam. It's pressure. you have current. It's the flow of electricity or the flow of water down a stream. You have resistance. It's what's in between a circuit opposing the flow. Alright, so now that we've talked about the basics, let's have a little fun. Let's build a basic 12 volt circuit using a switch, a power source, and an LED. I've already preheated my solder gun, so here we go. Alright, there are things to note here. One are these LEDs we wired in are not rated to take the whole 12 volt load we're going to hook up to it. So we're going to wire a resistor in series with it, and that will allow it to work normally. It may not be exactly what it is called for, but it'll definitely help us out when hooking it up to the battery. Another thing to note is the way you connect these LEDs. It's important that you put the positive on a positive and the negative on the negative, because if you wire these in backwards, they won't work. pick a resistor based on your needs, but we are using what I have. And the way to read the resistor that you have is by the color bands. And we currently have a red, another red, a black, and a gold. This will tell us what resistor we're putting in to our circuit. We're using a 220 ohms plus or minus 5%. Alright, let's go ahead and connect our circuit we created. And while doing so, I'm going to make a note to you and tell you that electricity flows in the direction of negative to positive. Alright, so we're going to connect our negative to negative. Be careful not to touch anything, because it will spark. And we're going to connect positive to positive. Alright, let's see if our circuit works. Oh yeah, boy.